I'm Jack Hunter and I solve business problems with tech. Today's problem that we're going to be focusing on is how to fix your Meta ads performance. And without further ado, let's dive in. There are two components to this, of course. You have to make sure that your offer is a good offer, that what people want, and you're not really selling ice to a snowman, basically. But the second component is you want to make sure you're tracking things to know what is happening behind the scenes. I will be focusing on the technical side of things. Now, we have two things that I would like to pay attention to. Number one is, let's do it from here, client-side rendering. And don't worry about the technical term of it in too much detail. I'll explain what it is. The second part is server-side rendering. Now, what that means for advertising agencies or when you're trying to run ads. Client side, if you were to try to grasp an idea of what it is, let's say you want to go pay your bill to your utility company. You would log into the website and you'll put your account information, you will bypass the security, and then you will access your actual bill. That information is coming from backend somehow, right? But what you see on that screen is exclusive to you, not to someone else. Therefore, no one else can really see that without bypassing the passwords, the login authentication, whatever. That information will never be available to other people unless they go through that process, because it is being rendered to the client directly, which is you. So that's the client-side rendering right here. The second part is the server-side rendering. What server-side rendering is, the data is directly given to the servers instead of showing you and only you exclusively. So when you go into that web page of the utility company, you see a web page that explains the name, the brand, what they do, and maybe a button to log in. That is visible to everyone. That is being saved in the servers, and everyone can access that. Any crawler can access that. AI could access that. If you just do a simple search, you can access that. But the gated part is the client side of the authentication, the post-authentication process. So what that means for Meta ads, that is interesting. Some people are building apps, and because most of the apps have authentication, they say, oh, I want to do SEO. I would like to make sure that it is ranking high. Well, it can't really happen because that data is super dynamic and it keeps changing for every time that something is being rendered on the screen. Therefore, you can't really do SEO on that much. But what you can do is you can do an SEO on your landing page, on your website, which is the server-side rendered part. And because of that, you have to pay attention to the structure of your attributions. You could technically set up here, let's just put a flow and we will get back to this. I just want to show you a flow here. You could technically set up an ad, a meta ad, and then this would be maybe sending them to a landing page. And then from the landing page, they can go to your app or book an appointment, etc. So how would you track a scenario like this? Simple. When you click an ad on Meta, it will assign a Facebook click ID to the URL, which you see on the top, www./FBCLID equals the certain number where that click has happened, which has the encrypted data for every single thing. And then with an external slash of other parameters such as your campaign, your ad set, your ads, you could actually receive all the information to your landing page on the URL part. And from there, if you don't do anything and you just let people book an appointment, unless you have a certain way to track this, the post-booking appointment process would not know what happened. Actually, let me just add one more screen here, and we're going to say confirmation screen. Yes. So, again, going back, if you receive the Facebook click ID with other parameters that we mentioned, with a simple JavaScript or a workflow, you can pass that along to the next page, and the same thing is going to happen here, and then the next thing is going to happen here. So that side could be done on the client side with the URL being passed along like a buddy passing each other like a piece of chocolate or something, right? So that could happen on the client side of things. That's good. Now, paying attention to server side of things, what happens is you would immediately collect that information, send it to your server, your backend, your database somehow. You could use an API for that, like a simple JavaScript library that could do it, depending on the workflow that you want to set up. And you would save it under the person. So you say like user and ID has this parameter, this Facebook click ID, blah, 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 blah. So the next time that same click ID does something else, whether it is to click a button or view another page or book an appointment, you would log again another information about what they have done. So that is completely done at the server side level. Why is this good? Simply because with the Privacy Acts and changes on after, iOS 14.5, most of the sites are required to block that or like a Safari or a different kind of a browser that you're using is blocking the information that you can collect for that person. Or a simple ad blocker could work, right? Like you would probably you have seen those Chrome extensions. And what happens then? The information that you're trying to collect by just putting a simple pixel on the site will not work. That's why we are coming to the next topic, which is you have two ways to track that with meta ads. You have the browser side pixel and you have the conversions API, which is integrated to your pixel. The browser side pixel, like has its own name, it works on the browser side. You can see the tag directly by installing Meta Pixel Helper as a Chrome extension, and you can see that if it's actually properly installed or if it's working. You can test the events on the Events Manager, and you can see if it's working properly. But the server side, which is the Conversions API, now that's the tricky part, because that actually works with your code. You got to put it install it in your code, and when an action happens, it just directly triggers an API to maybe a third party, or if you want to host it yourself, let's say Supabase, you can send it over there with an edge function and you will save all the data. Now, why is this good? If you want the most optimized way of doing these things and you want to really play at a high level, you would match the browser side data with the server side data with a process called event ID deduplication, which you assign an event ID for both that is exactly the same. It could be just a random number, but it will be matching. And then you would put them together and send it to Meta as a data, and Meta would do the deduplication automatically if you set it up properly. And then it would know every single thing about that person. That's the digital footprint tracking. Meta would then know what pages they have been, and the second that ad blocker worked or the 14.5 problem is kind of occurring, and on the back end, it will complete the rest of the journey that that person was doing, and then it will put it together, and it would know exactly the path that the user takes in order to reach to the goal that you want to achieve. Maybe in this case, it's just like a confirmation screen from clicking to an ad all the way going there. And that's how you fix your problem with your ads performance. Because if you don't know, and if you don't know what people are doing, if you don't know how to attribute properly, you would never be able to fix it. A lot of people are just understanding, hey, I just installed a browser pixel, right? And I checked it with the Pixel Helper or the events. It looks fine. That's great. Yeah, but you're probably going to get only 30% of the data that you're supposed to be collecting. Because let's be honest, I mean, I also run an ad blocker. It's super annoying to see a ton of ads, but your job is to bypass this problem, which is good and bad. It's bad because it's a lot of work that you have to do. It's great because most of the people won't do that work. So if you just follow the system of, learning how to do, understanding how client-side rendering works, how server-side rendering works, and how can I follow the documentation of Meta on what they want me to do, you'll be doing well on generating leads, generating appointments, finding new customers, doing e-com, whatever you want to do to use the meta ads for. But that's how you solve it. And this is how you fix the performance of your meta ads. If you have a problem for your business, drop it in the comments and I might be solving your problem in the next video.